Can humanitarian intervention be justified by just war theory? Have you ever wondered if military action can be morally right when it comes to protecting human rights? This question leads us to the concept of humanitarian intervention and its connection to just war theory. Just war theory is a framework that helps us think about when it is acceptable to go to war and how to conduct that war ethically. At its heart, just war theory outlines specific criteria for a war to be considered just. First, there must be a just cause. This means that the intervention should aim to prevent severe human rights violations, like genocide or ethnic cleansing. Protecting innocent lives is a strong reason to justify military action under this theory. Next, we have the idea of legitimate authority. Traditionally, wars should be declared by recognized authorities. In the international arena, this raises questions about who can authorize humanitarian intervention. The United Nations Security Council is often seen as the proper body for this. However, some argue that urgent human rights violations might justify actions even without explicit United Nations approval. Right intention is another key aspect. The main goal of the intervention should be humanitarian, focusing on protecting human dignity and lives, rather than seeking political or economic gain. The principle of last resort is also important. Before any military action, all other options, like diplomacy or sanctions, should be tried and found ineffective. Proportionality is another consideration. The benefits of the intervention should outweigh the harm caused by military action. The force used must be no more than necessary to achieve humanitarian goals. Lastly, there must be a reasonable prospect of success. This means that there should be a realistic chance that the intervention will stop or prevent the abuses without causing more harm. When we look at the intersection of ethics and politics, justifying humanitarian intervention becomes complex. There is a balance between respecting state sovereignty and the moral duty to protect human rights. Sovereignty usually means that states should not interfere in each other's internal matters. However, when a state commits serious human rights abuses, the ethical obligation to protect civilians may take precedence over strict sovereignty claims. This tension can create political challenges. Interventions may be viewed as violations of international law or as serving the political interests of the interveners rather than purely humanitarian goals. Deciding when intervention is justified raises questions about legitimacy and accountability. The United Nations system aims to provide a legal and political framework, but its effectiveness relies on the political will of powerful states. Without broad international agreement, interventions can be seen as illegitimate or as tools for political agendas. Practical applications of just war theory to humanitarian intervention requiring careful assessment of each situation against these criteria. For instance, the Gulf War in 1991, which aimed to expel Iraqi forces from Kuwait, is often viewed as justified under just war principles due to clear aggression and United Nations authorization. In contrast, the invasion of Iraq in 2003 sparked debates about legitimacy and true intentions, showing how political factors can complicate ethical justification. In summary, humanitarian intervention can be justified by just war theory if it meets its ethical criteria. This requires balancing the moral responsibility to protect human rights with the political realities of sovereignty and legitimacy. Just war theory offers a structured approach to evaluate when and how intervention is ethically permissible, but the political context often influences its practical application and acceptance in the international community.